What is up, fight fans? Jordan Kurtz here with the MMA plug presented to you by Mile High Sports. We are coming to you live from the studio inside number 38, presented to you by Volo and the Vemus app. We are, Danny, it's crazy to believe that we're into the second week of April already, but
I know, it's weird.
Being that we're in the second week of April, that means that some of these springtime sports are in full swing right now, but you can still check out Volo to get yourself signed up for some of those early summer sessions for adult recreation out there. I know that a lot of you are looking for some ways to go out there, have some fun, meet some new people. Well, check out Volo, go play some softball, some dodgeball, volleyball, basketball, flag football, whatever the activity that you want. Volo has that to offer there for you. Come on down here to the number 38. We just wrapped up the NCAA tournament, but there is playoffs on the horizon for both the NHL as well as the NBA. There is baseball going on right now. Hell, the Rockies are even pulling off a few wins in a row. So come down here to the number 38. Check out the games on all the TVs here. Grab yourself a bite to eat, coldly off the tap. There's some Mile High Sports merch that you could pick up as well. Come down here, check it out. Like I say, smash that like, share, and subscribe button wherever possible for Mile High Sports. Got my man Danny Bailey behind the boards, as always, holding it down for me each and every week. Over here at the Mile High Sports are the go-to guys for all things sports. Broncos right now are gearing up for the draft here coming up in a couple of weeks. The Avs, as mentioned, they are on their way to the playoffs. They have clinched the conference lead. They have an 8-point lead with just 5 games left. Now, we talked at the beginning of the season that they were off to a historic pace to potentially break a points record. They're not going to eclipse that total that was set by the Bruins a couple of years ago. Nevertheless, still finishing the season as the points leader as they push into the postseason. The Nuggets are on fire right now. The Nuggets are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They have moved up to the 3rd slot in the Western Conference with just 3 games left in the regular season. MLB regular season play is underway. And as mentioned, Rockies have pulled off a few wins. And they pulled off a couple. They won the series against the Blue Jays, right? They won 2 out of 3.
They did.
Suck it, Canada. Guys, make sure that you smash that like, share, and subscribe button wherever possible for Mile High Sports. We're going to move along into the Colorado rundown here. If you have the chance, please buy the tickets from the fighters wherever it is possible. This weekend, we have Colorado Combat Club 30 going down at the Stampede. There is just basically a day left where all of these fighters are going to have tickets left in hand. Hit them up today or tomorrow at the latest. I mean, they're going to be cutting weight tomorrow night leading into Friday morning. So don't be that person who's hitting them up at the last minute. Get those tickets right away. If you get them in person, paper tickets, that's going to save you a few bucks as far as the online fees go. But if not, you could check out the tickets at purplepass.com/CCC30. You could also, if you're watching from afar, be able to pick up that pay-per-view link from there as well. Give CO Combat Club a follow on Instagram for more updates through Fight Day. We're going to talk more about that card later on in the program too as well. Then next weekend, you have a couple of events happening here in the Denver area. You have Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship going down on the 17th at the National Western. We're going to be speaking with Denver's own Chris Camozzi on the program here in just a few minutes. He's going to be challenging for that BKFC Cruiserweight title on that card. You have CJJC, Colorado Jiu-Jitsu Club, with the 30 for 30 card going down on the 18th. That's going to be the next night, Saturday, at the Eclipse Event Center over off of Sheridan. The following weekend, up in Loveland at the Blue Arena, you have Sparta Sports and Entertainment with their Army vs. Marine annual card. And also that weekend, your boy's going to be out in Iowa City covering the XFC 54 card. We're also going to be talking with Sarek Shields, who's going to be in the main event of that card, fighting for the XFC welterweight title. More from him later on in the program as well. Guys, over the weekend, we saw the next step of who I believe is a blue chipper that is only a matter of time before he goes to the UFC. I think he's the best 145-pound prospect in all of Colorado. He's a friend of the program. You've seen him here on these airwaves directly. That's Elias Rodriguez. Elias Rodriguez on that LFA card last weekend in like 24 seconds, went out there and completely decimated his opponent, who had 8 fights worth of pro experience. Elias moves his record up to 4-0. Timing wise, I don't know if that puts him in position if he can get another fight in the meantime before contender, but that's a kid who, again, it's only a matter of time. He's still in his early 20s. He's absolutely going to make it to the UFC. It's just a matter of when. I think that he's not only one of the best prospects of any weight class pound for pound in all of Colorado, I think that he is one of the best prospects in the entire state. I mean, the way that that kid is able to go out there and just put light work to veterans, and from what I hear from his peers in the training room, I get to share the microphone with him on 5280 shows. I've watched him grow from a young fighter. We've had him here on this show. Just it's incredible to see the growth and the evolution that he has through time. And again, that's somebody who you will see as a top contender in the world period within just a few years. Moving along from that, we have UFC Fight Night that happened in Apex over the weekend. You had Renato Money Moicano taking on a teammate, which I know it's definitely a tough dynamic for the two of them, but it was more so, it was a big brother, little brother situation with Renato Money Moicano taking on Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan, the Scotsman, training now out of American Top Team down there in South Florida. Man, he's just there was just no position where he was better than Moicano the other night. And props to Chris Duncan for taking that opportunity to try to crack the top 10 with somebody like Moicano. But I think from the very outset of the fight, you saw from the hesitancy or from some of the reserve that Duncan showed, I think that he understood exactly how the fight was going to go. And while they say that they haven't done a whole lot of sparring together, or they didn't do a whole ton of things intermixed in the training room, they have common training partners. So some of that intel is going to go back and forth. You're going to have a little bit of a look from maybe a coach or a training partner that says, well, he does some of this. Then that gives you an idea that this is going to come. Well, that showed the entire time. Just pure veteran experience from Moicano. Moicano, as always, terrific on the microphone. Probably not one of the favorite interviews that Paramount Plus has ever had, but still, nevertheless, Renato Moicano, always entertaining. In the co-main event, this was a pretty similar dynamic. As talented as Tabitha Ricci is, and as improved as she has gotten, I mean, she's developed a lot of nuance to her striking game from where she first came in purely as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. But you have Verna Jandiroba. Jandiroba is not by any means or any conventional standards a high-level striker, but she's effective in how she implores her unorthodox style. That unorthodox style got her all the way to a title shot. I mean, she duked it out with Mackenzie Dern earlier, or back in 2025, I should say, not earlier this year, but at the end of 2025 for that 115-pound title. But when it came to certain positions, Jandiroba was just so much stronger, or just looked like it was a big sister, little sister type of dynamic. Like the grappling sequences, as good as Tabitha is, she didn't have an answer for Verna. I don't know if Jandiroba is able to find herself into another title shot at some point. You know, I would imagine that Wei Li is coming back down to 15 and will get that next opportunity against Mackenzie. But where does that put her? I'm not entirely sure. You know, she's obviously someone who is at the top of the division, though she has some limitations to her game. But with her strong suits, and she's just funky and just awkward enough that it's hard to prepare for her, she's wildly effective at 115 pounds. Ethan Ewing followed up on a successful debut where he shocked the world against Cameron Wellemaker a few months ago. He has a big TKO with a liver shot to Rafael Estevam. Ethan Ewing is talented, man. I mean, blue collar strength. Yes, I get it that he's they gave him flack from some of the circles out there. I can't remember if he's a safety guy or if he's a super or what he is in that world, but something in relation to like I saw comments about it that they call him a white hat or something like the color of hat that his hard hat is or whatever it is that he gets a little bit of a knock for being a little bit softer than some of the regular guys out there. But nonetheless, that's a that's a dude who has heavy hands and is wildly entertaining. Next matchup from that, you had Tommy Gunn McMillan with a successful debut against Manolo Zucchini. This was a fight that, hey, I will give the credit to the Italian for going in and being a gamer, but we understand exactly what they were trying to do. We understand what's happening with Tommy McMillan. Tommy Gunn, Tommy has a look about him. He has an aura. He has a charisma. He comes from the lineage of Sugar Sean O'Malley. They're trying to build potential star factor, star power, and attraction out of Tommy Gunn. So you give him a favorable matchup on the way in. Yeah, it was a fun fight, but it was a little bit sloppy at times too. Did he pour it out there trying to chase a finish? Certainly. But again, did that performance right there say that, oh man, this dude is right away, right now, today, the next coming of something special? I don't know about that. Again, do I think that he has a lot of potential? 100%. But if you compare that to, say, when Ilya was in his first couple of fights at 45 or some of those types of guys, I don't know that I see that. He's young. He's got a lot of time to develop. But what is the track or what is the trajectory that they choose to go with him? I would venture, if he has Sugar Sean behind him, we could see him slow rolled. But money talks. He's a kid who's obviously got a flair for attention. Everything about him screams, "Look at me." The dyed jet black hair, the Joker and Scarface tattoos, just the braggadocious approach. He's got all of the things to say that, yes, he could be a guy. But I would like to see a little bit more tactical refinement in his next outing. Moving along from that, just another couple to talk about before we move along in the program. You had Alessandro Acosta with a beautiful liver shot, couple liver shots to finish on this card. You had Darius Flowers picking up his first UFC victory. He had to finish over Lando Venata. Lando Venata came out and he at least was able to make light of it in his own respect. He said he took the advice of Dustin Poirier and it didn't work out for him. Well, what was that advice, ladies and gentlemen? He said, don't be silly, jump the ghillie. Well, what is the risk if you jump a guillotine and it is not there and you end up on bottom? And when you end up on bottom with somebody who is a big, strong, powerful person like Darius Flowers, that's a very, very bad spot to be. And that's how he ends up getting finished by Hammer Fist. Now, keep in mind, Darius Flowers, once upon a time, he fought our friend of the program, Josh Fremd. That man at one point in time was a much larger human fighting 30 pounds heavier. That's not somebody who you want to feel the ground and pound hammer fists from, plain and simple. The other fight that we're going to talk about here, you had Alicia Pereira, who had a knockout by knee against Haley Cowan. Alicia Pereira, man, no relation to Alex, but she's 20 years old. That moves the record up to 6-1. That's a future contender. Like, she has a future star ability to her. She's got a look. She's got a style that's entertaining. When you go out there and when you completely starch your opponents, that's something that builds you, especially within a division that is relatively shallow. The women's 135-pound division is not deep by any means. So a few more fights. I mean, I would hate to see her get burned by getting pushed too fast, too young. But it's also, again, it's a shallow division. So we'll see what happens. Maybe she gets baptized by fire. Maybe she is her and is able to make a charge toward the top within due time. Tresean Gore and Asmat Bakoyev had a fun fight, which ended up with a tech sub. Tresean Gore, I believe every win that he's had in the UFC now at this point has been by a guillotine. And then opening up the card, Kai Kamaka III got a win by split decision in his return to the UFC. Love to see it. Kai Kamaka III, really good dude. Met him a couple of times at shows throughout the years. Former LFA veteran, had a stint in the UFC, didn't get re-signed, went to Bellator, had a PFL fight as well. Fought a couple of times out on the regional scene, got a short notice opportunity with just a couple of days notice to get back into the UFC, goes out there, knocks it out of the park with a winning affair. Guys, stick around after the break. We're going to be talking with the BKFC Denver main event and cruiserweight title challenger, Chris Camozzi. I'm Jordan Kurtz. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports.
There are those who say the modern world has made us lose touch with places like this. We say, that depends on what you're driving.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jordan Kurtz here with the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports in partnership here with PunchDrunkGamer.com. I'm here with Chris Camozzi. Chris, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. I appreciate it, and excited to talk to you. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but it's always great to see someone who I consider to be one of the Colorado OGs and someone who's been like a big brother to me throughout all of the years through covering you in the sport to the days back with Performance MMA. Someone who we have a lot of history, so it's great to talk to you here today.
Yeah, you too.
Chris, you're going to be fighting in the main event back here in Denver that is going to be going down on April 17th against Esteban Rodriguez. It's a cruiserweight title fight. This is a chance to reclaim the throne back here at home. I'm sure it was great to go over and visit Italy a couple of times and experience all that the motherland had to offer, but getting a chance to fight for the title back here at home, that also has to feel pretty great too.
Yeah. I mean, I get so much support here, and I love fighting here. My mom, my family, they're all able to come, which means a lot to me. And just sleeping in my own bed at my house, have everything I need around, takes out a lot of the challenges from traveling.
So, along with that, someone who has such a fellowship within the local community, how much does that local support help you rally in your performances?
Oh, a ton. I mean, I've already sold a ton of tickets. I think I sold most of the floor seats. Just really cool. People go out of their way to come watch. So it's my job to entertain them that night. And no, I get so much support here, man. I love it.
Certainly, certainly. Now, from the outside looking in, the optics from the last fight with Alessio Sakara, that was kind of one of those situations where you were stuck between a rock and a hard place, being that he was the Italian favorite guy. It was more or less, from my position, you had to knock him out to be able to walk away with your hand getting raised there. Did you feel like you had the odds stacked against you, just being that you were in his home country going up against, up against those dynamics?
Well, to an extent, I always feel like that going to another country or at least somebody's hometown. But then, as the fight was going, there wasn't any part of me that thought he was going to win that fight. When I went to a decision, I thought it would be clear for me. Obviously, I was wrong. I'm not the judge, but it hurts. But here we are. I'm back. I got a new opponent, and I can't look past him.
So let's talk that now, real quick, here with your opponent. All of his wins in BKFC have been by knockout within the first couple of rounds. Is there anything special that you've done to prepare for him being kind of a gunslinger right out of the gate, or what's been the mindset and the approach?
I'd say the mindset is just sit him down, right? Best way to calm somebody down like that that's chaotic is hit him hard. His style, doesn't make for like a pretty boxing match, a technical looking match. It's a brawl. And it excites me. Like Josh Fremd and I, and like other guys, like sparring. Sparring has been a lot of fun because we're just getting ready to. If he wants to brawl, we'll brawl.
Certainly, certainly. Now, having guys like Josh Fremd and whatnot, and some of your other highly decorated training partners, what has that meant for you to be able to prepare for another title fight here, being one that's naturally going to be here in Denver? So you get that altitude, you're here at home, you have all those elements that you said, you get to sleep in your own bed. What does that mean for you? Adding that you have your great training partners.
Oh, it's awesome. The atmosphere, the vibe at the gym is crazy right now because we've got a ton of big fights coming up, throughout the gym. So everybody's pushing, and that makes it even more fun, right? Because if my training partner is outdoing me, I got to step it up, and so we're always like volleying, and it pushes you to be better and better and better. I'm sure you see it over at Factory X. Those guys, like, when the atmosphere is high in the gym, it pushes everybody real hard, and it's exhausting, but it's fun.
You've obviously experienced it on each end. You have multiple other teammates who are going to be on this card. Do you like fighting when you have multiple teammates on the card, or do you like it when you're just you're the star of the show when it's just you?
A little of both. I mean, I love being on cars with teammates. The tough part, I don't think we have that this time, is in the past, some of the Denver cards, we were all back to back to back, like 3 or 4 fights in a row. So I ended up warming up with my coach like very early, and then he was basically out cornering the rest of the night. So this one, we won't have that issue, at least the way the card is laid out right now. I don't think I have a teammate fighting before me. Um, but it's cool, because we go to weigh-ins together, we go to the fight together. Everybody's on the same mission, fight night. Um, Usually, I get my own locker room, but I still have all the guys come in there, and we just use the bigger locker room because it's fun to be surrounded by people on the same mission.
Certainly, certainly. Well said there. Just a couple more here for you folks. We're talking with Chris Camozzi, who will be fighting for the BKFC Cruiserweight title on April 17th here in Denver, Colorado. Chris, you are also an expecting father. How does that
Yeah.
does that change your mentality and approach, or someone who's been a vet for so long with so much experiences, is it just another day in the office?
No, I would say it's very motivating, right? It'll be my first kid. I got a daughter due in May, so the due date is very quick. The timing of this fight, I won't say perfect, but I mean, if I was going to fight it, it would have to be now. Otherwise, I'm going to have a bit of a break. Going through that newborn phase and stuff is not going to leave me a lot of time and sleep. So it's exciting. This is something that we can look back and show videos and pictures to my daughter when she's older. Having her mom that's pregnant, and um, very excited. And like I said, it's motivating because now it's not just taking something from me, you're taking it from my family, which I'm not going to let that happen. So, um, big motivating factor, and can't wait.
Awesome. Awesome, man. I love to hear it, and looking forward to the future there for you and your family. I got to ask you this, Chris. This is a little bit more of a just an introspective question. What was your welcome to bare knuckle moment?
Welcome to Bare Knuckle. Um, I would say you're talking about like getting hit or something, or
It could be something to that effect. Maybe it was a realization moment. Maybe it was something where it was kind of like, oh wow, this is real. For some people, it's I always ask, what was your welcome to? It's most of the time it's MMA, but I guess for you in this case, it would be what was when you realize, man, bare knuckle is I'm in it. I'm in the saddle. Here
yeah.
we go.
I would actually say the welcome to Bare Knuckle moment would be first fight was against Bob McDaniels. I got a knockout. I think it was in 27 seconds or something, but it wasn't a big punch. But it was enough, right? It was precision over power, or like loading up. And it was right at that point I realized, like, all right, no gloves or anything. You don't need to load up. You don't need to try to just crush everything, where some guys want to just put everything into it. It doesn't take that much. So tighter, sharper, more precise is more important, I think, than just loading up and trying to hit something as hard as you can.
Very well said. And then one last question here for you, Chris. Is there a song lyric, maybe a quote, a scene from a movie, anything along those lines that tells the tale of Chris Camozzi for this camp in this fight?
Man, put on the spot. I don't know if I can think of that. um, I don't know. From a movie or song, I don't think so. Shock. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I know where to find it.
Is there a song that you're listening to every day on the way to the gym or, during your training sessions or something like that?
Not at the moment, man. I got a pretty crazy playlist that bounces all over from heavy metal to rap to whatever gets the vibe going. But I just keep telling myself all or nothing, right? Go for broke.
Perfect. That's your quote right there. That's telling your tale. Chris, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to on the way out?
Oh, I appreciate you. Yeah, my team at Genesis, my fiance for putting up with this while she's pregnant. And yeah, just shout out to everybody in Denver, all my support, all my friends, family. Come out April 17th and watch me work.
Guys, as always, we love having one of the OGs of Colorado here on the show with us. One of the big brothers of the program, one of our earliest guests that we had once upon a time, way back in the day. Chris, where can people follow you again?
Mainly Instagram, right? At Chris Camozzi. I think it's still MMA. Should probably change that now. Yeah, other than that, you'll see me around town. I'm always around. If you're looking to buy, sell, or lease any buildings, let me know because I do commercial real estate full time, and I'm building that business up bigger and bigger, so that when I'm done fighting, I got something to lay back on.
Awesome. Always out there in the community, a great person to have in your corner or always rallying. Love to see when you come out to our shows and support us on the local side. We will be there in the bill and supporting you on April 17th. Guys, that is Chris Camozzi, who'll be fighting for the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship Cruiserweight title that is going to be going down once again on April 17th here in Denver, Colorado. Stick around after the break. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports, presented to you in partnership with PunchDrunkGamer.com.
The thing about basketball is your team can win, or they might come up short. Either way, how much fun you have is all about who you're hanging with. Come on over to Hooters, where every game's a win. With wings that bring the heat, ice-cold beer to wash them down, and the only stat we really care about is assists.
Game's on. Where are you gonna be?
Hooters, your official hangout for game day.
Welcome back to the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports. We're coming to you live inside the studio of number 38, presented to you by Volo and the Venus app. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Going through a few of the matchups here to give you a quick preview of UFC 327 this weekend going down in Miami. Still got a lot to go through on the second half of the program with you guys, so we're going to blaze through this a little bit here with the UFC 327 preview. We're going to talk Colorado Combat Club 30. We're going to talk with Sarek Shields, who will be in the main event fighting for the XFC title later on in the program, and then closing it out by going 3 rounds. But without further ado, running through UFC 327 this weekend in the main event, going for that vacant light heavyweight championship, you have Yuri Prochazka taking on Carlos Ulberg. Now, Carlos Ulberg is certainly stepping up into a major opportunity here. He's still relatively unknown to a lot of the casuals out there, especially in comparison to his dance partner. Yuri is a former champion. I think that tactically, yeah, Ulberg has a lot of, he has a lot of routes to victory because he is technically crisp, whereas Yuri is a little bit more of a risk taker. He's more unorthodox, but we're going to talk a little bit more about Yuri later on in the program. Overall, I think that this is as quality of a title fight that we could have gotten for that vacant strap at 205 as there was available. In the next matchup from that, in the co-main event, you have a light heavyweight bout between Azamat Murzakanov taking on Paulo Costa. Now, Paulo Costa making his move up to 205. Azamat Murzakanov, again, another one of those guys who kind of sneaks under the radar with most of the casual fan base, but a guy who is a top-ranked contender at 205 pounds. We said that that's one of the biggest prospects to take a look at this year at 205. He's coming into this fight at an unbeaten 16-0. He's like Gimli from Lord of the Rings. He's just a little war troll. The only thing he doesn't sport out there is a little battle axe. in terms of dimensions, Palacosta is going to be the taller and the longer fighter, I believe, on Saturday night when they make the walk into the cage. But Azamat Mirzakhanov is way faster than he appears to be, and the dude has pop. So we'll see how that plays out in Paolo's move up to 205 there. Following that, just another couple to talk about. You have Josh Hokett, who is making headlines left and right this week. You know, some people are saying, especially with his antics from Media Day today, having his little back and forth exchange with Yuri, the walk across with Ulberg, where Ulberg really wasn't too phased, and then he had his interesting Media Day appearance, which was more of what I take from Josh Hokett, and maybe this is the pro wrestling mark in me. This is the stan who wants to suspend disbelief and who wants to believe in the promos, who just appreciates the showmanship. He is in a division right now that is so desperate for any bit of life. He's playing an 80s style over the top pro wrestling character. That's the way that he's handling his media and his promos and his appearances. He's staying in character. That's obviously not how the guy is in his everyday real life. But you also, some people could say, oh, it's cringe. They hate it. It's not good for the sport, or they don't like. You can say all of that. I could give a rat's ass. The guy is an unranked fighter, only a couple of bouts into his UFC career, and he is now fighting for a top 5 spot this weekend. Respectfully speaking, if he was just a humble run-of-the-mill guy who has a football and a wrestling background, who is hunky-dory and I'm just happy to be here, well, he's probably having a much slower push. But the fact that he does come out there and he has the welder do-rag on with the crazy sunglasses and puts on the gloves and is cutting promos and using props in interviews and just making people be interested in him, love or hate, there's a reason why he's getting a push. You had Jailton Almeida, who was winning fights and was a ranked heavyweight, who got cut because he was uninteresting. Josh Hokett said, okay, noted, be interesting. Love or hate. That's what he's doing. He's taken on one of Denver's own and Curtis Blades, a friend of the program. I think that this is an extremely tall test for Josh Hokett. I think that we probably see that hype train get derailed this weekend and a little bit of that fire get cooled off, being that Curtis has been one of the best heavyweights for damn near a decade now. He just could never get over the hump when it comes to becoming a world champion. But Curtis Blades has basically, since he entered the UFC, been one of the top heavyweights, and everything that Josh Hokett does well, I think that Curtis Blades does better. You have what looks to be an exciting fight where somebody's probably going to sleep between Dominic Reyes and Johnny Walker. You have the send-off fight between Cub Swanson and Nate Landwehr. We talked about this a few months ago when this got announced. That's a fight where the fans win. That's going to be an all-out war. You know, Cub is going to go out there with that killer mentality in his final fight. Nate the Train has never had a fight that you don't like or hasn't been exciting in terms of his approach. He's a killer, be killed type of style. You have Patricio Pitbull taking on Aaron Pico, a couple of former Bellator guys who are now meeting in the UFC octagon. Pico got knocked out against Lerone Murphy in his UFC debut. This is his chance to try to right the ship in his sophomore affair. Patricio Pitbull lost in his debut, then was able to get the win against Danny Ige in a lackluster affair. Interesting. What do we got here? Combat Club. Curtis will be victorious. Hey, got to rally for the hometown guy. Absolutely. Yes, sir, Eric. And then also talking about one more fight on this card before we move along to the next card we'll talk about today. Want to give a big shout out to Markel Medeiros. Markel Medeiros, another friend of the program here, who he's now fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona, down there out of the lab. He's fighting Taco Padilla. Chris Padilla has been unbeaten as well since he's been in the UFC. It should be a wildly entertaining fight on the undercard down there in Miami. But Markel Medeiros, man, that kid is a thoroughbred. He is so smooth, and just the close connection. Obviously, we're close to the forest on this one, but I think that Markel is going to go out there against a game opponent and is going to have an extremely impressive performance that is going to catapult him toward that next step of contendership within that 155-pound division. Now, moving along, we're going to talk about Colorado Combat Club 30 real quick here. We have in the main event, you have Miguel Barrientos of the Subhounds taking on Owen Robinette. Robinette coming out of Washington. Miguel Barrientos, friend of the program, a champion with us as an amateur. He's now rising the ranks here as a professional. He's, he's a kid who's just entertaining. He's fun to watch. He goes to war and he wants to finish every single time. Miguel Barrientos, on any card that he's on, he's somebody who you should want to see fight. In the co-main event, we have a guy who won Fight of the Year honors last year in his battle with Connor Leonard at Colorado Combat Club 26. You have Brandon Waters taking on Chris Rios. Chris Rios, an established veteran out of Las Vegas, coming out here as well, taking on the Subhounds product in Waters. You have another Subhounds guy in Tommy Lozano, who's going to be taking on Barajonia, who comes out of Jackson Wink, another storied camp down there in New Mexico. So high quality professional fights that we have here on the top of the card. We also have one of the, a fight that by itself, if you saw these two guys fighting in a cage, in a ring, if you saw them fighting right out here on the corner of 38th and Chestnut, it would be an entertaining banger of a fight that is a can't miss matchup for the fans' perspective between Juan Sarios out of Factory X taking on AMAG's Tyree Wolfork. These guys are going to go out there and they are going to swang and bang. This will be a fun fight. Both guys, a lot of fight experience too in their amateur careers, both looking to have professional aspirations. Yeah, they're going to throw some leather on Saturday. You have a couple of ladies who are going to be getting down following that in Pilar Handy coming out of Factory X, taking on Melody Flores. Melody Flores had a crazy debut for us back in December. I mean, talk about an overhand right that she just uncorks and just lands with authority. She's taken on, though, a very tough test in Pilar Handy, who will be making her Colorado debut up here now for, I want to say, 8 months, somewhere around in there from Arkansas. Pilar is, she's coming into this fight, I believe, 2-0 in MMA. She's also a veteran of the Beast Games, the show with Mr. Beast. She was on season 2. So Pilar is a budding rising star in her own respect, looking out to continue to forge her way forward in the game of mixed martial arts. You have Pedro Lopez of Factory X taking on Owen Schultz at a Tiger Beetle. These are a couple of guys who fancy themselves as strikers. This is going to be a fun fight. Two long, lanky guys who want to throw heat. Should be a fun one to see between the two of them. Seth Tumbleson out of Factory X is going to be taking on Gabriel Martinez of Genesis. Both guys very young, very early on as far as their path in MMA goes. But, Seth is a kid who we've had on a few CJJC shows who has multiple tech submissions. Kid is a background within wrestling, but also a skilled submission grappler. We'll see how he fares going out there and putting it all together against a kid who's going to come well prepared out of that Genesis camp. You have Isabella Nava out of Pound for Pound taking on Kristen McDonald out of Bang Muay Thai. Jeremy Davenport out of Trapper Fitness taking on Brett Fogelberg. Brett Fogelberg had a big victory in his first fight with us just a couple of months ago for Colorado Combat Club. He's representing C's MMA down there in Colorado Springs. Big guy who has some ability. Martin Odish out of Unbreakable taking on Marcus Morton of Genesis. Marcus Morton, that dude is like carved out of stone. I swear to God, that guy is going to go out there and he's an athlete for sure. Then opening up the card, you have Declan LaShawn out of Merck's Jiu-Jitsu in Colorado Springs taking on Elian Carrillo out of Azteca Boxa up there in Northern Colorado. Then just want to give a shout out to another couple of friends of the program. We had Michael Stack, who is going to be fighting on Friday night for Front Street Fights. We will also see Micah Haas at WXC on Saturday night. Micah Haas is fighting for a flyweight title. Both guys, again, friends of the program, have been around for a very long time here on the Colorado scene. So best of luck to you guys. And guys, come on out to the Stampede on Saturday and check us out for Colorado Combat Club. Stick around after the break. We're going to be talking with Sarek Shields, who will be fighting in that main event for XFC 54 for the welterweight title.
At the Denver Athletic Club, exceptional facilities and a vibrant community come together to elevate your fitness journey. While the DAC is the perfect place to achieve your health goals through countless sports and activities, we also offer a variety of amenities to support your lifestyle. A co-working space, childcare, social events, family activities, private event spaces, and more are at your fingertips as a member of the DAC. Discover the Denver Athletic Club today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports in partnership here with PunchDrunkGamer.com. I'm Jordan Kurtz, joined here with a special guest. He's going to be fighting on the XFC 54 Ascension card in the main event for the welterweight title. We have the Berserker, Sarek Shields. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, brother, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a sunny day out here in the Mile High City, so I really can't complain, man. I can't complain at all.
Yeah, man. The sun's finally starting to shine in the PNW, and I'm grateful for it.
Well, for you guys, it's great whenever the sun pops out, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's a rare sight this time of year.
Definitely, definitely. So, Sarek, before we get too far into the thick of things, where can people give you a follow?
On Instagram, my Instagram handle is S_Shields_S.
There you have it, folks. Make sure that you give them a follow there so you keep tabs on things leading up to Fight Night and all things leading through that main event on April 25th. Going to be going down in Iowa City. Now, I got to ask you right off the top, man, because that's an awesome nickname, the Berserker. Where does that come from?
My dad gave it to me, actually. When I was an amateur, I had a couple just, nicknames that people would like call me and stuff like that. And my dad wasn't really having it. And when I was an amateur, like kind of just like everybody else, we're kind of just winging it, man. So like, I would just go out there and just like run forward and just like bully my way into, whatever position I'd want to be in. And that's how my dad, like, he's like, you're not any of this, hoo-ha stuff. He's like, no, man, you fight like a berserker. And, that's what people started calling me from then on out.
Gotcha. Understandable there. I just, you never know the origin of nicknames. Sometimes it's something that happens. Sometimes it's like, it's, ancestral and like some sort of like cultural roots to it or anything. So, I didn't know if that was.
Well, I am Norwegian too. So.
Okay. So you got that Viking blood in you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're taking on Darhan Ergashov, who, Darhan, he's known as the Nomad. So we got the Berserker going up against the Nomad, a couple of real warrior cultures out there. What are some of your initial thoughts on the matchup with Darhan?
Oh man, I'm super excited, man. Like, he's coming off of a big win over Ray Cooper. I'm coming off some wins in the PFL. And like, I'm super excited. I feel like it's going to be a really, really good fight.
Certainly there. Now, you mentioned that you saw his win against Ray Cooper there. He trains at a team Alpha Male out there in down there in Sacramento. So he's West Coast as well, but not really spent a whole ton of time here in the States. Was that really what kind of first put him on your radar? Or I'm not really sure, what his timeline was as far as getting out here and being in the Western region out there.
Oh, like everything else, it was kind of just a opportunity. I got a message like, hey, we have this date lined up for you. We have this guy. Do it. See if you. I didn't even look into his his records or his background or anything. I just said yes, man. Like, I was so much itching to get back into the ring or the octagon, and as soon as his name popped up, I said yes. And then. After I said yes, I did my research and I was like, wow, this is going to be a really, really good fight. I can feel it.
From a styles perspective, what entices you?
I think it's grappling. I feel like, we're both pretty good grapplers. His striking is really good too. And, but I think it's more so like the grappling. I feel like no one has on either side has pushed us in the grappling, and I feel like we can really push each other. So I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, and he's pretty durable too, given that, Ray Cooper had some early success. You had the broadcast team that was almost, calling for the fight to be stopped in the submission, thinking that he was out, and then he's able to rally from that. Does that, I guess, give you maybe not necessarily motivation, because there's enough motivation alone when somebody signs the contract, right? But maybe it's just a little bit more to say that, like, this dude is hard to kill, so I better make sure that I'm crossing all of my T's and dotting all of my I's.
Oh, 100%. Like when you take on someone that skilled, man, you can't just, wing it or lollygag. You got to make sure that everything is, to the point. You got to make sure that everything is just settled. You got to stay tight. You got to, stay focused for sure.
Certainly. Now, in terms of you, let's talk a little bit more about yourself. You're training out of American Top Team Portland, right?
Yep.
So you've got a lot of high quality, highly reputable, respected names that have came through all the generations that MMA really has to offer, from Fabiano to Ed Herman to the Simones to Brent Primus and everybody in between. He's obviously got some quality stablemates down there in Sacramento, and with some of his cure buddies with like Miktabek Oralby and whatnot. How do you feel like your background and those people who you've came up with help prepare you for this moment?
Oh man, it's just confidence, having those people and, that did so many, big things, just like you said, like Fabiano, our head coach, and, Ed, when he was still in the UFC, he was like sparring with us every day and, stuff like that. When you get, a certain, level of guys in one room, the confidence just goes up. Like, I feel way more confident than I did ever because of those guys specifically. And like, sometimes we don't even, always spar each other, but knowing that they're in the room, like when you're next to someone like that, you just want to push yourself harder because exactly what they're doing. Stand next to Brent, man, like that dude's a workhorse. And whenever I'm like with him, like I feel like I need to just go. So like when you're in a room full of just monsters, you have to turn into a monster. Otherwise you get left.
Totally understandable. Totally understandable. You got to have that kind of iron sharpens iron effect where everybody elevates each other in the process, right?
Exactly.
So this is honestly, this wasn't scripted or thrown in, just couple of things putting together. Crazy degree of separation that we have here. Ed Herman was once my customer once upon a time, probably about 10 years ago. I worked for Verizon Corporate in Fort Collins, Colorado. Him and Fabiano were doing some work at a place called Trials in northern Colorado. And I in that moment in time in the store, I understood why Ed was called Short Fuse.
Yeah. My first sparring session, a couple of the guys forgot their gear, and I found out why his nickname was Short Fuse as well. It was I was watching him, become Short Fuse, and I was like, I'm never forgetting my gear ever, never.
Yeah, just crazy. It just that memory, just kind of one of those core things, boom, unlocked in my head as we were sitting here talking, and his name popped up again. But yeah, just crazy degrees of separation there. But so that being said, though, too, you're training up in Oregon, the Pacific Northwest. Sometimes, for lack, and this is across all sports, sometimes the PNW gets a little bit overlooked. It's something that a lot of sports fall, I guess, fall into an East Coast bias or some of the more major markets. Do you feel like that puts maybe a little bit of an extra chip on your shoulder to say like, hey, like I'm really for real, I'm here?
Not really, if I'm being honest. I don't really care what people really like think. Like if someone looks at me, it's like, oh, he's from the PNW, he's no big deal. I'm gonna be like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna show you why, though. Like, again, like, uh, what what when it comes down to like success, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's what you're putting into it. And again, I have a room full of killers that are standing behind me, pushing me every day. So like, if someone thinks that it's not going to be a big deal just because I'm from the PNW, it's like, oh, and I think you are right. I think the PNW does get overlooked a lot because like not even in the gym, but like just all around the PNW, there's a lot of good talent around here. And, whenever we're called to show up, we'll always show up, like no matter where.
And naturally, this is a different sport, and it's not to try to take the spotlight away from you at all. But you guys have the Super Bowl champion up there in the Pacific Northwest right now, and for I guess over the course of the last 10 years have had a high degree of success, but sometimes that stuff just gets overlooked in all national sort of sports media. So I can totally understand like where the thought process comes from that like, man, they might not be talking to us, or talking about us, but when it's time for us to answer the bell, we'll be there.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Every time. Every time.
Now, you mentioned you've had your wins in the PFL. You've fought multiple times for the LFA. What have competing for those platforms, which I believe that, LFA is arguably the best feeder program that's out there, preparing guys for the major organizations, PFL being a major organization out there. This is a huge opportunity that's going to have a lot of pomp and circumstance with production and whatnot for XFC in this main event title fight. Do you believe that your experience with those other shows also helps you to manage just some of those little extra things during fight week that, if you're maybe fighting for more of a local level show, or when you're earlier on in your career, you're not having to deal with the extra media obligations or expectations. You're not the guy whose face is up on the poster that's all around the arena that people are kind of looking at and seeing like, oh, is that the guy? Is that him? Like all through fight week, how does that help prepare you?
Oh man, it's like, especially like when it comes to like the bigger organizations, it's just the professionalism. Like for me, it's like time wise, like everything is like scheduled, like rarely late. Everything is just like taken care of. It's just basically going point A, point B, point C, and then you're done. Like, and like, again, like when it comes to like, your amateur career, local promotions, stuff like that, sometimes things can get a little hectic, a little messy. But now, like when it comes to like when I first fought for the LFA, I was like so surprised because like everyone was like not to say like hold your hand, but they basically do. They're like, hey, go here, go there, you're done. And then when I got to the PFL, it was just like that, but just on a bigger scale and a bigger media stage and, stuff like that. So like that is what I like really, appreciated with the experience that I had in the PFL and the LFA is just when I was with them, everything was just on time, perfect. When you get to weigh-ins, you don't need to wait. They'll ask you like, hey, are you ready? Are you on weight? Cool. Step on the scale, boom, fill out the paperwork. You're free to go. It's like when it comes to stuff like that, that's what I really appreciate.
That's some of the underseen things, or the things that I guess the public doesn't get to see though also, right? Is there's a lot of those little operational things that have to be done, but if they're organized, it can be a pretty seamless operation as long as it's done the right way.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Now, I got to ask you, Sarek, what was your welcome to MMA moment?
A welcome to MMA moment was like when I first started, like why I wanted to start.
Or maybe it was it could have been that like, oh yes, this is why I want to do this. Or maybe it was an awakening, for some people, like, for example, it just happens to be his birthday. When I asked this question to Brian Foster once upon a time, he said his real welcome to MMA moment was when he first went out to Militich once upon a time, or Hit Squad. I can't remember what the iteration was, but sparring with Robbie Lawler. He had already had some wins and already had some success within his career, but then getting thrown in there with one of the top guys. Some people it's that, some it's like, well, maybe it was my first fight, or others it's man, I talked to a couple of fighters and I tried a Groupon kickboxing class and it had me hooked. Like it's just everybody, it's different. So what was the moment for you?
For sure. Okay. Yeah, actually, if I'm being honest, well, I've always been a fan of MMA, on the wrestling team, we would always get together on weekends and watch the fights and stuff like that. But I think the real like welcome to MMA moment was my first loss, actually, against Josh Quinlan as an amateur.
Okay.
Because that moment was hard because, again, I lost, and it was just real. Like you kind of like when you win, you have that high, but when you lose, you have two choices. You can either suck it up and get back to it, or you can just quit. And I was like, I took it on the chin, and I was like, man, okay, well, like, this is it. This is a fighter. Like, not everybody is going to be a Khabib, you know, like I was telling myself all this, like, you know, you might take you're going to take some losses, man. Like you just got to wing it. You kind of, or not wing it, but you just got to accept it. You know, you got to grind it out and realize what you did wrong and work on it and then just keep trucking forward. So I think my real welcome to MMA moment was not my first fight, but my first loss.
That's very well said. Pretty insightful. I like that. Now, I also got to ask this question. What is the hardest thing for you to give up during camp? What's the hardest thing to cut?
Oh God. Man, I love pizza, man. I love it so much. I love pizza so much, man. And I kind of feel bad for my wife because like when I'm cutting weight, she kind of like, you know, inherits my diet. And, you know, she'll be eating dinner and she's like, she'll just look at me and she's like, I want pizza. And I'll be like, how do you think I feel? And like, you know, she'll like go to the grocery store and I'll see her outside and she'll be like sitting out there for like an extra 5 minutes. And then she'll like come back in the house. I'll be like, what were you doing out there? And she's like, mouth full of like candy or, you know, whatever. She's like, nothing. And I was like, okay.
Just getting a little sneak
But yeah,
treats
man.
So I got to ask then, does pineapple belong on pizza?
You know, I don't mind it. It's not my first choice for sure, but I don't mind it actually, which is a weird thing for me to say because I love pineapple. I love pizza. When I was a kid, didn't really think so, but now that I'm an adult and my taste buds, you know, matured, I don't mind it. I can have a Hawaiian pizza. I also love ham too, so.
Yeah, with the right combination, I think it's within its own right. It belongs. So everybody that hates pineapple on pizza, I will continue to say it belongs.
Yeah,
just a running question that I always got to ask because everybody has it's such a polarizing question out there for so many people. Now, as we tie things up here for you, Sarek, I got to ask one last major question here. Is there a song, maybe it's just a lyric from a song, a scripture passage, a movie scene, anything along those lines, a quote that tells the tale for the berserker for this camp in this fight?
Yeah. When I'm going to give him a quick shout out, but my buddy Woodrow, he always sends me the day I fight, he always sends me a text, you know, and he's really good with his words, but he always says, head that wears the crown. And that's from, I forgot what movie it's from, but it, you know, it basically means like, if you want to be king, you got to be prepared to wear the weight of the crown on your head. So, I mean, that always, you know, whenever he says that to me, that kind of reminisces with me as well. And, you know, every time, you know, he says something like that, I kind of just like, you know, lock into myself. And I say like, and I tell myself like, if you want, you know, and this isn't my first title fight either. So, you know, I always tell myself like, if you want to be king, you got to be ready to bear the weight of being the king. So
I love hearing that. That's very well said, well put together, well thought out. Now, one last time, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to, friends, family, coaches, supporters, anybody out there?
Oh yeah, man. I got tons of people, man. I got, you know, my two sons, Bjorn and Brian are, you know, I love those boys so much. And then of course my wife, you know, she's always supported me throughout this entire journey that I'm on. You know, and then of course, you know, my best friends, Woody and Zach, always there for me. And then just all my teammates at American Top Team, man, I would not be the man or the fighter I am today without them. You know, like, you know, dude, when I moved to American Top Team, man, that like just, it leveled up my game so much. And then just, you know, it kind of just turned me into who I am now, you know. And then, of course, you know, I always want to thank God for my opportunities, you know, all the blessings that he has, you know, bestowed upon me in my life. You know, I just, everything that I do or everything that I possibly can do is, you know, for my family, and he gives me the opportunities to do that. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that. I'm looking forward to seeing you go out there and fight for that for the XFC title at XFC 54 on April 25th. Where can people follow you?
Instagram handle is S_Shields_S.
There you have it right there, folks. That is Sarek the Berserker Shields, who is going to be challenging for that 170 welterweight title for XFC, going down on April 25th from Iowa City. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Folks, stick around after the break. We'll be talking more original combat sports programming. I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports in partnership with PunchDrunkGamer.com.
With millions of page views every year, ColoradoPreps.com is the #1 source for the high school sports community to keep up with the latest news and scores. From football and volleyball to basketball and softball, ColoradoPreps.com provides a year-round hub for coaches, friends, and family to stay connected to their favorite schools and athletes, and keep an eye on their rivals. Covering high school sports from the peaks to the plains, you always get the latest at ColoradoPreps.com.
Welcome back to the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports, coming to you live from the studio inside number 38, presented to you by Volo and the Vemus app. Guys, I told you that we had a lot to pack into today's episode. We are going to close out the show by going 3 rounds. Got my man Danny Bailey behind the boards. First round, my brother, what do we have?
All right, Jordan, future UFC Hall of Famer Matt Brown says Yuri Prochazka hasn't evolved his style and he doesn't see the sustainability. What are your thoughts?
With all due respect to the immortal, with all due respect, he's a friend of the program. He was somebody who, when I first was a young pup in the game, and walked through the doors almost 10 years ago at Factory X, he was there, and he was one of those guys who I had like a larger than life, starstruck sort of like appeal from Matt Brown, like walking in and seeing like, this is, mind you, like Matt Brown fresh off of the Diego Sanchez knockout, all that. So a high degree of reverence. That all to be said, I think he's wrong. I think that Yuri has shown in his last couple of fights a lot of growth and evolution. Right now, as we look at it from a 30,000-foot view, Yuri is 39 fights into his professional career. He's a multiple-time world champion who is fighting for another UFC world title this weekend. He does absolutely have reckless moments where he risks it for the biscuit, but that is why he is the Czech Samurai. That is why he is such a fan favorite. That is why he has ascended to the heights that he has. When we start talking about Yuri Prochazka, those last 2 fights that he had against both Jamal Hill and Khalil Roundtree, those were some of the best performances in all of 2025 from anybody on the entire roster. Since signing to the UFC as a rising champion, the only guy that he has not beaten, the only guy that he's lost to is Alex Pereira. So to say that it's not sustainable, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I look at Yuri in the sense of, like, I'll relate this. Maybe some of you won't understand this, but those of you who know baseball will. Yuri is the Hunter Pence of MMA. He is as crazy, unorthodox, and funky as you can be, but at the highest of high levels, he's wildly effective and is a world-class athlete who is a world champion multiple times over, just like Hunter Pence was a multiple-time All-Star and multiple-time World Series champion.
There were some back and forth statements made from BKFC's David Feldman and Platinum Mike Perry. What are your thoughts?
I was kind of surprised. In general, I was also surprised to see that Perry was fighting outside of bare knuckle and was going back to MMA, but David Feldman said that he was disappointed because they said that they had some big plans in store for Mike. Now, Mike Perry, on the flip side, said that he felt that that wasn't fair and that was uncalled for Feldman to make those position statements at him. He said that he was ready to fight multiple times throughout 2025, and he kept on being basically fever pitched and strung along for, we're going to have you fight here. We're going to have you fight this date. He said it was multiple times where there was something that was in the works that never actually materialized. Once this offer was concrete, was real, and was somebody who he felt like would actually show up and be there on fight night. He said that, hey, knock on wood, the track record for both him and Nate Diaz showing up on fight night, pretty high. Said he was willing to take that risk for a can't miss opportunity on a card that is going to have a lot of eyes going back to MMA, as opposed to staying where he's kind of became a king of BKFC.
Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevenson is set to make his Real American Freestyle debut. Is this a hit for RAF?
RAF has been hitting gopher balls. I mean, they've been knocking it out of the park. Their last few cards, tremendous in terms of the entertainment value, but their ability to bring some of the top world-class elite wrestling specialists and blend them with some of these MMA rising prospect names, as well as some of the stars of yesteryear or Hall of Famers, if you will, also on this card. You have 2 former NCAA All-Americans who were also UFC champions. In that co-main event, you're going to have Colby Chaos Covington taking on Chris Weidman. So their ability to blend all of these elements together, I think, is incredible. It's only going to see the sport of wrestling continue to grow as the future goes along. But just like that, folks, we are all out of time. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in with us each and every week for Original Combat Sports Programming. And we went a little bit long with you this week, but we're grateful for you for sticking along. Come and check us out this weekend at the Stampede. We're going to be cracking the doors at 12. First fight's going to be around 1 p.m. That is going to be for Colorado Combat Club. Come out, check us out. We're going to be some big stars in the building as well all throughout the day. Want to say thank you to my man, Danny Bailey, holding it down for me behind the boards always, each and every week. Also, thank you to BKFC's Chris Camozzi and XFC's Sarek Shields. Guys, I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. We'll be back with you next week, same time, same place. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports.